Welcome to Worlds of Fun. Hello, my name is Luke Walls, and I'm currently student teaching in 5th grade at Oakdale Elementary at Westside Community Schools in Omaha. Just to give you a little organization of my theme park, I have my competency statement, my guiding questions, my evidence, and then my synthesis with my reflection on the back. My overall theme is theories of learning and roles in teaching. Now that we've gone through part of it, let's go ahead and step on in and strap our harness. Starting with my competency statement. I am competent in integrating fun in and out of the classroom in order to build positive and productive relationships with students. Fun is described as engaging students and making everyone feel comfortable in the classroom. Some guiding questions that can help us get through this roller coaster ride. How can a teacher get all students actively thinking and moving in the classroom? How can a teacher build a relationship with all students? And how can a teacher make activities that provide movement for all? Now that we've gone through all the safety, let's go ahead and start this roller coaster ride. Starting with evidence one. Evidence one leads me back to my first practicum experience ever. I was at Freestrom Elementary in LPS, and I was in 5th grade. The class was very advanced, and so during that time, I didn't really work with them a whole lot. I was more working one-on-one with the student during math. But during this time, I was my first time ever teaching, and I was teaching algebra. I was going through, the class was really advanced, so they wanted to pay attention. I thought it went well, but really, they were just motivated themselves. So I didn't really think much about the movement, and so that's how it ties back to my competency statement of I didn't get to know the students, and I wasn't really thinking about the movement. So I carried on through my educational career, leading to evidence two, which was health and wellness 380. This goes back to Barbara's class, where this is one of my structures. She always talked about the importance of movement and how well it can help the students in the future and help them be more engaged. Well, this is one evidence I have of card addition or subtraction. For example, would be if a student had a 7 and another student had a 4, they would meet together to have an 11. So 5 and 6 and so forth. So this really gets the kids thinking about just addition, and they can show what they know, and it allows them to move. And when they're moving without learning, that is the key to success. And so this got me really thinking about moving and tied back to my competency statement of movement in the classroom. So I was able to have the kids be engaged and learn while moving and realizing they weren't. And this helped me lead to my next evidence of going into, and I took this on into Lit Block. And this evidence is Belmont, and I was doing Lit Practicum, and during that time, I was playing with the students, and I told them I was going to play really hard, and I was going to try really hard with them to get to know that personal level with them. Well, as I was doing that, I ended up ripping my pants. So I went back upstairs. I went through lunch, and I went back upstairs. For some reason, I looked down that day. I still don't know why. I was standing in the doorway, and I realized my pants were ripped. I had to quickly and quietly go walk over to my teacher and say, "Hey, can I go home? My pants are ripped." She let me go home, and then I eventually came back. But during that time, I was able to think about all that I learned from playing with those students. Those students, they felt respected, and they wanted to be in the classroom, and that's what made it so great. So during that time, just by taking that little bit of time, I was able to get to know them on a personal level, and they were excited about the classroom. So with that, I carried this on into my student teaching, which leads me to evidence 4. I am student teaching at Oakdale Elementary at Westside Community Schools in Omaha, and during that time, I had an anticipatory set. I'm teaching roughly 50 fifth graders during that time, and so I need to make sure they are engaged. So we were working with dividing fractions. While dividing fractions, you do the reciprocal and then you multiply, and so I was able to do that with them by this game of finger multiplication. So you have one here and another person standing across from them. You put your hands behind your back, and I would say 3, 2, 1, and then they would go and they would show how many. So if this side had 10 and the other side had 5, 10 times 5 is 50. And then I'd say 3, 2, 1, and one of the lines would slide down. So during this time, I had everyone involved, everyone moving, and in 5 minutes we could go through 26 problems, and the students weren't even realizing they were going through all these problems. And then also during my student teaching, I had working with least common multiples. Well, least common multiples deal a lot with fractions, and so during that time, I had the students do jumping jacks. It's called silent jumping jacks. So there'd be one leader. I'd choose the leader by like drawing a stick. And then during that time, I would give them a number, like for example, 2 and 4. Well, the least common multiple of 2 and 4 would be 4. So the leader would say 3, 2, 1, go. And then they would start doing jumping jacks. As they're doing jumping jacks, the students, they couldn't talk though, and they couldn't count it out loud. So they just had to know they need to do 4 jumping jacks. Well, the students that went on and did 5 or 6, I knew I needed to go and talk to them more about jumping jacks and about least common multiples. So it worked out well for me, but it got the students moving, and that was what was so great about it. Even yesterday, I had the chance of doing decimals to percentages and fractions to decimals and so forth. So I gave the students, we met out in the flex space, I gave them a card. They had to meet their 2 other partners without talking. They could only use nodding or shaking their head no for their form of communication. So during that whole entire time, they were able to do movement, in which allowed them to learn so much, and that's what made it so great. And that is how it ties back to my competency statement of movement and providing relationships with the students. So overall, this led me to some big ideas of my synthesis. As a teacher, I need to allow everyone to feel welcome in the classroom, and when they feel welcomed in the classroom, they will be wanting to get there. And if that's the first step, if they want to be there, then they can learn. Which leads to the second big idea, which is students are more engaged if they are able to learn in the classroom. If the students are more engaged in the classroom, the more they can learn, and that is a huge step. And this ties all back to my competency statement of making sure kids are having fun in the classroom and are build a positive and productive relationship with everyone. With all this synthesis, it leads me back to my reflection and my time of being at UNL. With my reflection, during the time of being in the classroom, I have learned that I need to take the time to build the relationship with the students. With building the relationships with the students, they will be able to learn more and go on and feel more welcome in the classroom. Also during my time, I've learned that I need to engage the students, really get to know them, and when they're engaged, they're learning and they don't realize they're learning, which is a hidden success to teaching. So overall, with all this time, for some future and some short, long-term goals, I want to take all that I've learned. I've been fortunate enough to have a job opportunity for next year teaching 4th grade. I want to get to know my students. I want to build a productive, positive relationship with them. And also I want to make sure that learning is fun by having them be engaged with movement. So I want to continue this all the way throughout. For a long-term goal, I want to eventually maybe get my master's and maybe become an administrator, but that is a long ways out, and we'll see how that goes. And for I'm going to learn more about this. I'm going to learn more about doing whole brain teaching and learning more about that, with also going to PLCs and talking to other teachers. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time and visiting my theme park.